welcome to Hiker Homily number 42 for the first week of November. I think it's like November, week of November 4th. And excuse the wind, but as you can see, we're outside today doing Hiker Homily. And this week we're going to talk about hiking logistics and how some of us take it for granted and some of us have to worry about it all the time. So most of the time when you hear the word logistics, people right away think of supply, and that is part of logistics, but people who have actually done the job of logistics for like the military or a company or, as part of their job or something like that, you realize that it's more than just supply. It's getting the proper supplies to the proper place to people who need it. And I hope the wind's not too loud because I can feel it whipping up around here. Because, hey, we're shooting outside today. But yeah, logistics are, and for hiking, it's not just taking supplies and getting them to the right place. It's more than that. It's actually being able to get yourself to the right place as well. A lot of people take it for granted. Me, for example, just now I'm out here on this levee road. With the Delta in the background. It's a nice place to train when I want to just get miles in. I'm not worried about elevation changes. I'm not worrying about that kind of thing. I just want to get in some miles, get my body used to doing certain miles in a day and things like that. I like to use these levee roads because it's a nice place to walk. And in most places in my community, they either have a bike path on them or roads like this that are mostly gravel are generally, some of them are a little different. They have restrictions because they're on private property. But generally ones like this are, county maintained and they are open during daylight hours, and so they're available. So for me, it took me 5 minutes once I was dressed and had all my gear together, and I'm light geared today. I'm not really doing a hike. I'm doing mostly a walk, like I say, just to get my body used to doing that kind of thing every day. So it took me about 5 minutes to jump in my truck with my water and a very light snack and things like that. And next thing you know, I'm parked at one of the local parks that has a bike path, and the bike path ties up to this levee road. And again, you're allowed to be on it during daylight hours. And there it is. It's that easy. Now, for a lot of people, it's not that easy. Just to get out to a place to hike for some people is an hour drive, and they have to figure out how to get there because they either don't have a car or that takes gas money and things. All of that is logistics, and that's part of what we're talking about today. So, not just supplies, but getting yourself and your supplies. Number one, just getting those supplies. Number two, getting you and those supplies to places like trailheads or even places to train. That's all part of logistics. And some of us, and I'll admit that I'm in that category, sometimes can just take it for granted. We really can. Because for me, I'm in a good situation. I'm retired. I have a regular income. My wife is working, so we have two incomes. I have the time. I have the funding to do at least the basic stuffs, because for hiking and things, food, equipment, and things like that, it can be expensive. You can cut corners here and there, but there are certain things you really shouldn't cut corners on, and I did a video on that already. Where you need funding, and so how are you going to get that? Well, that's going to be kind of up to you. And that's going to be getting a job, working odd jobs, whatever you can do. There are folks out there who do the whole GoFundMe thing, or go on to YouTube like I'm doing here, but they ask for donations in money, or they do Patreon. I'm thinking about doing a Patreon to kind of help with things too, because even though I have an income, my wife's income pretty much takes care of the household stuff. My income helps with some of that, but because I am retired, it's a fixed income. It's not, I don't have overtime and all that kind of stuff like I used to have. So, they do things like Patreon and things like that. Now, I think I've said it before, I'm not a big fan of e-begging. If you give something in exchange, like you make videos like I do, and I don't even ask anything in exchange for my videos, at least not for now. I'm just kind of just doing it for fun. But there's folks out there like Homemade Wanderlust, Darwin on the Trail. There's a whole bunch of other hikers out there who offer something. They offer videos of them doing things and tips and things like that for hikers and stuff like that in exchange for donations or subscriptions and things like that. And I think that's perfectly acceptable. It's a great way to do it and things like that. To just get online and say, hey, I want to go hiking, somebody give me money to do that, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not. But you know what? Some people do it, and there are people out there who give people money. So, power to them. I'm not a fan of it, but there's no law against it. So there it is. So how you get the money is kind of up to you. Now, the big one for a lot of people isn't really the money, it's the time. And that was my issue for years when I was working, especially when I was working nights and things. I was doing 12-hour shifts. And I really hope the wind isn't blanking me out, by the way. I know that this could be an issue. But yeah, I was working 12-hour shifts and had every other weekend off. And most of those weekends would get filled up pretty quickly, by family things. Because when you only have it, when you're working one weekend and then the following weekend you're off, and vice versa, you just keep going in that pattern, those weekends you do have off fill up fast when you have a family and things. And it was filled up with great things, wonderful memories and a lot of fun stuff. But there was just no way, because my entire family is into hiking and stuff like that, and we have other stuff to get into, there was really no way to squeeze a lot of hiking in there and things. So that's part of logistics too, is finding the time to get out and do things, especially if you're not lucky like I am and some other people are. If you live near places where you could walk, or you live near trailheads, that's fantastic. If you only have to drive 10-15 minutes or a half hour to a trailhead or somewhere, whatever you consider reasonable, that's fantastic. But there's a lot of folks who do not. They are hours away from any kind of a trailhead, or even places that are really good for training walks and things like that. So that's all part of logistics too. And so the good thing for that is we live in a world where things like Uber and stuff exist. When I first started hiking, there wasn't anything like that, and you couldn't just call a taxi cab and say, take me to trailhead near Lake Tahoe when you're living here in the valley. You really couldn't do that. And so nowadays you can actually do stuff like that. So that's part of a logistic thing that's kind of solved by that. You can do things like people can get the trailheads that way. If you can get a ride from a family member, great. If you don't have your own car or own transportation, or you don't want to leave it at the trailhead, try to get those kinds of options. But just things to think about when you're thinking about getting into hiking. That's part of logistics. Not just getting the stuff, but getting you and the stuff to the places that you want to hike or need to hike. That's all part of logistics. The other part of logistics is, like I said, the time, and then getting everything back from the trail. So, like I say, this was just a quick one while I'm out on a walk. Things to think about. And again, there are solutions out there if you really want to make it happen. There are ways to get out there to the trails nowadays. I hope you have friends or family that can give you a ride at the very least. If not, you can try Uber. There are Uber drivers and Lyft drivers. I'm not like advertising any specific company. Any of those kinds of ride program apps and things like that. There are drivers within their ranks that do long hauls. They will drive a couple of hours and drop people off and things like that. So it's possible. You can do it. One of the guys in my hiking club, in fact, is on his days off an Uber driver, and he specializes basically in long distance drives, and he is always picking people up here in the Central Valley, here in the Stockton area, Tracy area, and driving them into the Bay Area, Hayward, Pleasanton, San Jose, and then back and things like that. So you can do those long couple hour things. There are Uber drivers who will do it. Logistics. The big thing is planning. That's really what it is you got to plan ahead of time, because there's a lot of folks out there who, I want to go hiking tomorrow. Oh shoot, I don't have a ride, so I got to start calling now to see if somebody in my family. Well, you start dropping things like that on your family in the last minute, chances are you're not going to, be able to get a ride. You still might be able to. There could be people like, I can give a family member a ride most times because I'm retired and there's nothing I'm doing unless I have some kind of crazy appointment or something like that, there's nothing so important that I couldn't, like, okay, yeah, I'll mow the lawn later today, or I'll mow the lawn tomorrow. I'll pick you up and get you to the doctor's office. Stuff like that for family members. And hopefully you guys are, there are folks out there that are in the same predicament, that you have family members that will drop things for you. But they can't all the time. There are times where it's like, for me, I do have appointments. I got to go to doctors, or I got to do this, or my son has this and that. I got to be there for him and things. And so you call me up a day ahead of time. Yeah, sorry, I can't help you tomorrow. That's just the way it goes. So prior planning is always a big thing that helps you with logistics. You can price things out, figure out what you need, earn that money, figure out, okay, I'm going to have this much time off 3 weeks from now, so I'm going to shade that in. That's going to be my hike time, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to get this for it, and then have it all lined up. You got 3 weeks to plan. That's really how you conquer the logistic issue, is you got to get that previous planning in and do that kind of thing. That's my take on it anyway, and that's really my look at logistics. Logistics is just one of those things that a lot of people don't think about. They think in terms of gear and stuff like that, but they don't think in terms of how are you going to get all that certain places. You have to have a certain kind of vehicle if you're going to be carrying heavy gear, like a full backpack and things. You need space for that, depending on how many people are going to be in the vehicle, if you're going to get a ride and things like that. You just got to think about all of that ahead of time, and that's how you defeat the logistics, as far as my opinion goes. Any other takes, any issues with logistics that are unique, that you think are unique to you, let me know. As usual, you can get a hold of me at hikingforhealthca@gmail.com, or on Instagram and Facebook, also Hiking for Health CA. And I hope you enjoyed this little outside hiker homily while I'm out on one of my little walks, getting my body used to walking and activity every day, because that's what's going to happen when you're on the PCT, and I plan on doing that in, less than 6 months. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. How do you like that? So anyway, that's what's going on. Thanks for joining me again on Hiker Homily, and as usual, we will see you next week.